All right, so now we are going to do what's called handle pulling. And this is the way that we're going to create our handles for our mugs, all three of them. You need some clay, a bucket of water. You can either use the bucket if you're still at your throwing wheel, or you can use the sink in your hand. So you're going to take your clay and you want to roll it into a like triangle or like a railroad spike kind of shape. That's going to be our first step. And then you want to take whichever hand is most comfortable for you, but one of your hand is going to hold the clay. The other hand is actually going to be pulling the handle itself. So for this one, I like to use my right hand to pull. I'm right-handed. You may be more comfortable using your left hand and holding with your right. It's up to you, but you'll figure it out. But whichever hand is going to be holding the clay is just holding it. It shouldn't get wet. It doesn't dip in, anything like that. So I'm going to take my clay. I get a pretty good grip on it. I take my hand, I submerge it in water, and then I start up at the top of my, kind of where my fingers are, and I'm just gentle pressure squeezing down and then to the front. So I'm really just sort of rotating around the clay coil itself. And you'll notice that I'm holding this straight up and I'm letting it come down. The reason why we do that is we want gravity to work with us here. Okay, so I just keep adding more water as it gets dried, and you can see that my handle is starting to get a little bit longer and more narrow. And I'm just alternating again all the way around. So I'm not just squeezing from one side or the other. I'm really going side and then front and back, side, front and back. I like to do 2 pulls on each and then rehydrate my hand, go back through. Okay, depending on how big your mug is going to sort of dictate how big you need this handle to be. We always start out with dry, clean hands. Make sure that you do that. Once our handle's about the size that we want it to be, I am going to use my needle tool, and I want to cut it at an angle that's going to allow it to be attached to my mug later. So I cut this one right here. Right, I take it and I'm just going to place it down on my board next to my mugs and let it dry up. If it's really, really wet still, you can always put it on a rolled up pipe or some paper, something like that, to get it to allow it to dry up and hold that curve. We really want it to hold the curve. So I still have my same piece of clay, and I just start that same process again, right? I keep it sort of going, nice and even pressure, kind of squeezing at the top, and then you're lessening the pressure as you get closer to the bottom. So squeezing more at the top, lightening up the pressure at the bottom. All right, making sure that we keep that clay really hydrated until it's about the length, the shape that we want it to be. And again, I'm going to cut it off, thinking about that angle that I want to attach it, right, and how I want to attach it to my mug. Lay that one down. And depending on how much clay you initially started out with, you should be able to get quite a few handles out of that first one. I like to make more handles than I have mugs, and that way I'm able to really kind of play around with placement and what shape I want on which one, or what size is going to fit better. Some of them are thicker, some of them are going to be thinner. which is all good. We just want to kind of see what's going to work best with our overall mug, right? And we want to let these, don't throw it like that. But we want to let these sort of dry up a little bit so that they become leather hard. Not super duper leather hard, but leather hard enough that they're going to hold their own shape when I go to attach it. I'm going to take my mug, I kind of take a look around, check out my different handles, figure out which one is going to look best with this. As far as size and placement, we want to look all around at it, figure out which one of these is going to have the best fit and feel for our mug. Once I do that, we're just slipping and scoring. Right? So I'm going to score on my handle. I'm going to be attaching. I fold it down so that we have a nice big flat surface that we're going to be attaching it against. I find my spot on my mug. Again, we score it really big. I like to score that whole section so you can see this is where my handle is going to get attached. Flip, flip, and when I attach the top, when we're doing mugs, there's usually about a thumb's width of distance between the lip and the top of our handle. So I want to keep that in mind as I'm attaching this. And I pull this side up, attach that down, pull out my shape, and blend that in. Right, so I want to make sure that I have like a nice solid thumb rest on there, that my shape is good, and that my handle is well blended, really well attached onto that. Okay, I can use my potter's thumb to smooth out some of those edges and make sure that it stays there. The point of attaching it is we want it to stay attached. So that's that. So this is after I wheel thrown it, I have a trimmed foot. I just pulled my handle, now it's attached. I'm going to let this dry up until it becomes more leather hard. So you remember when we push on it, it shouldn't lose its shape. That's how leather hard I want it to be. And then if I'm going to be doing my sgraffito design, that's when I'm going to apply my underglaze and start carving that in. If I'm not doing sgraffito on this one, then once it's a little bit more leather hard is when I start doing my design. Never grab things by the handle until after it's been fired, right? Never want to grab things by the handle. The most I want to do is just take a look at it, make sure it's on there straight, give it a little wiggle, but I'm never going to pick it up by the handle.